Hello students, today we will be discussing another type of question that is called summary of passage. Summary of passage primarily means to read a passage provided in the question and to decipher the appropriate summary that summarizes the entire passage. So in this type of question, we have to understand the key points in the passage, and they will not be more than 15 to 20 sentences. It's a very small passage when compared to reading comprehension. So in this type of question, we find that we have to understand what are the key points, identify them, and put them in the options to check whether they form an appropriate summary for the passage or not. So we will start off by solving a few basic questions to understand the concept, and then we as you practice, you get a hang of the process of solving the type of question. Now another point to ponder on is, if your reading comprehension skills are strong, then this becomes very easy for you. Okay, so let us now begin with the solving of such questions to give you an idea as to how these questions are solved. In the first question, we are we as we read the passage, you find that they talk about scientific innovations, and they classify the scientific innovations into two aspects. One, a totally new idea, new innovation, and second is the enhancement of an existing idea. So, of an existing idea through developments, through research, and some of them are totally new. And it also talks about the Ayurveda being part of the second category. Keeping these three pointers in mind, so what are the three pointers? First is that it is talks about scientific innovation, which are of two types, and one is a new innovation, and second is that of a enhancement or development of an existing idea, and third point is that Ayurveda being an important part of the second category. Now, if you look at the four options, we find that in option A, we find that only two types of only we find that it talks about new ideas and Ayurveda being part of the second stage, but does not talk about the two types of scientific innovations. Whereas option B talks about scientific innovations that takes form of new ideas and also for defining new ideas. So that means we're talking about the point one and point two, and the third point, that is Ayurveda being part of the third. So I think this is the most suitable idea, but let us read all of them and then come to a final conclusion. In the third option, C, we find that they're talking about the two types of scientific innovation, but the Ayurveda as the second develop of the second stage of second type is not mentioned. So therefore, C cannot be the option. D also follows a similar path because it talks about the two types of scientific innovations and further discussion of the two types. But here again, the concept of Ayurveda being a part of the second type of innovation is not mentioned. Having understood and read all the four options, we find that B is the most appropriate because it covers point 1, point 2, and point 3. What is to be understood here is that while reading a passage, please remember to mark the important points being discussed so that you can trace them and find them in your answer. Hence, the answer for this question would be B. Now we proceed to the next question in order to understand the concept in further detail and delve deep into the idea of solving these type of questions. On reading the passage, you find that Obama has promised to close the Guantanamo Bay after he after he became the president of America. Once again, you find that the first is closing of the Guantanamo Bay. Second point here is that it talks about the treatment of the detainees or the people who are in these in these particular locations. And then the third, and then it talks about how they have been dealt with, and the last part deals with the status or what should be done with the remaining. We have identified the 3 points in this particular passage. First is the Guantanamo Bay that has been is intended to close down. Second is the treatment of the the people or the detainees in the bay, living in the bay. And the third is the question, asking the question about what is going to happen about the remaining detainees. Keeping in mind what we have understood, let us look at the options and try to understand which one is the most befitting one to summarize the passage. In option A, they talk about facing stiff competition. Yes, they do have, but they also talk about treatment of the legal status of the inmates. But that is not true, because we have already seen that they have given a detailed description about how they have been treated and what is the status. So, hence, A does not qualify as the summary. In the second option B, we find that it talks about the decision to close the bay, but it also talks about uh, the issues that they have faced, like citizenship issues, and how they are convincing the people to take them back to their countries. They're not talking about the question that is being asked, that is, what will happen to the rest. They have not discussed about what are the actions, whether actions have been taken about taken about the current issue of the inmates. So therefore this does not apply to this as an option. Option C, C is again talks about stiff criticism, and also the question of, and also they're talking about the legal status of the inmates. I think this is not true, because they have given us in the passage, they've given a particular center called supermax facilities, where they have kept the people ready for deportation. So therefore, and more importantly, the issue of uh, of what will happen to the other inmates have not been answered, and they have not been discussed. So therefore option C will not be an option. Finally, we come to option D, where it talks about the roadblocks or the hurdles faced by the by Barack Obama to close the Guantanamo Bay. Okay. Now again, he has said that the remaining prisoners, that remaining prisoners means the remaining prisoners will move to online facilities that have already been discussed here. The again point number 2 is discussed over here, and 3, where the where to determine whether the prisoners will be moved to the country in the supermax facility, or what is going to happen next. So if you see over here, whether the remaining prisoners will move to the other facilities or to host the countries. Okay, now if you see, now the question is being asked, now what is going to happen, those who are living over here, and the question is being answered, those who have been identified as illegal, and what is going to happen in the uh, to the people who are identified and who will be deported, or who have not been deported, or who have not been identified. So the option D is the correct option. Hence, keeping in mind point number 1, 2 and 3, D is the most appropriate option. Now we jump straight to question number 3, where we discuss the third type of question. Third question, that it talks about the Paris Agreement, and it talks about how the countries are actually trying to help develop the communities living in these countries. So again, if you see over here, they talk about our experience of working as a diverse range of cities. So this community, they are trying to work on in the Asian counterpart, where they will develop certain cities. Okay, and out of which they have, for the to talk of Paris Agreement, they talk of cities. Now 100 cities, cities that have been chosen for the development as per the Rockefeller Foundation. Now Rockefeller Foundation has taken the initiative to develop the cities, but the issue here was that they have chosen the cities where they have political power and political will. And the third is, it is a point that it does not consider it has not taken into account the actual development index or the requirement of the particular cities. Now, going to the question, if you see, the first option talks about climate change, and this climate change is again being taken forward by the Rockefeller Foundation, and is talking about its effects. But the element that is missing is, the consent or the intent to develop the cities where actually development was required. Hence a cannot be the option. Here we find that they talk about the ill effects of climate change, and how a solution can be provided about to solve the problem of climate change in our planet. But they have not spoken about the Rockefeller Foundation, or nor have they spoken about the a fact that the cities have been chosen only where they have political will or power. This B also does not qualify to come up as a summary for the passage. The third C, I think, is more relevant because it talks about the recent the recent convention about climate change, and it also talks about how to. It also talks about how the things can be changed. Okay, it talks about, yes, manifestation and thinking about how to change. Yes, it does talk about Rockefeller Foundation, or a foundation, or some force that is coming forward to help this problem. But more importantly, they also talk about participation, development of societies, 100 cities, but they should be done with consent and the need of the hour, rather than political power, or where they have more governance. That would be more effective to solve the climate change issue. Hence, C seems to be a more appropriate option, from keeping in mind the other two options. The option D only talks about the problems that of the cities that have been left out because they don't have political influence. So the other 2 points are not being discussed over here. So keeping in mind the 3 points, Paris Agreement, the intent of creating of solution, or providing a solution for the of the climate change, and third, it talks about the actual implementation, that is the actual implementation of the committee, or of Rockefeller Foundation, or people to come forward and provide a solution. So out of which only one is present. So this cannot be an option either. After understanding all the 4 points, it is very clear that C is going to be the correct option. Having solved 3 questions of this type, I think it is pretty clear now as to how we solve these questions. We solve these questions by identifying the key points in the passage and looking for them proper uh, in the proper sequence, or in the options, looking and finding out the uh, proper summarization as per the question. So keep in mind, whenever you solve these kind of questions, read the passage very carefully. Identify a passage. It is unlike reading comprehension, where the passages are very long, but it's a very short passage with a very indicative answer. So therefore, the points, you will have all the 3 points, but you have to understand there could be 1 point, 2 point, 3 points, 4 points. But identify the points and put them into the answer and check it. That's all for this. That's all for this type of question, friends, students, and look after and practice and look into the passage in great depth, understand the passage, and then proceed with the options. Okay. Now I will also upload some resources for summary of passage, and and you can practice them. But as of now, I hope this explanation has been of will be of value to understand this type of questions, as these type of questions come for the verbal ability part of your CAT examination. Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much, students.